Today, I'm going to give you my final review on the Hoka Rincon 3. Before we dive in fully, I just want to let everybody know I am still giving away a pair of the Nike Invincible Flyknit. Just a shoe that didn't necessarily fit my foot, and I want to pass it along to someone who could use it more than I can. So I'll link the video here, just check it out. There's still some time to enter if you're watching this video around its release time. But I hope that those shoes can go to somebody who needs them, so take a look at that. The Hoka Rincon 3 is a wonderful lightweight daily trainer that's capable of so much more. It comes in at only 7.4 ounces out of the box, and you know, it's just got a wonderful amount of cushioning to keep you comfortable through any run that you're going to do out there on the road or on the track, while also being light enough to really keep you on your toes and make you feel like you can either race in these shoes or run at your workout pace on the track, on the road. It doesn't really matter. I'm telling you, this shoe can do it all. Let's look at some of the basics first. This is a pretty standard sandwich mesh upper. This is an improvement, in my opinion, over the Rincon 2. It's a little bit more breathable, still very, very comfortable on your foot, just the right amount of padding, a pretty stiff heel counter here, but a good amount of padding, a good amount of comfort throughout the entire upper of the shoe, while still, again, maintaining a very light weight of just 7.4 ounces. The tongue is very thin. It's a mesh tongue here, just enough cushioning so that way you don't feel the shoelaces tied tightly over your feet. I think it's very comfortable. However, I do think that it's a little bit short, and it does tend to just barely get up over the shoelaces when it's sitting on your foot. So a little bit interesting choice there with the tongue, but nonetheless it is very comfortable, while again still maintaining that light weight. The midsole is just a simple EVA foam. It's nothing super high tech. Again, it's a ton of stack height. You have a very respectable stack height of 29 millimeters in the heel, 24 millimeters in the forefoot, giving you a 5 millimeter drop on this Hoka Rincon 3. The midsole is not too soft, not too firm. It's certainly not squishy like some of the, say, Zoom X foam. I'd say it's a pretty similar durometer, maybe, as far as just the softness to the Saucony, Power Run PB type foam. You know, you can stick your thumb into it. It gives away a little bit. Certainly not the same foam or energy return. This is just a basic EVA. But as far as softness goes, something similar to that on the firmer side, but still comfortable. It's thick enough that you're not going to feel the road. I was running in this shoe several times on either dirt paths or, a street or something like that where there's cracks and things in the road, and I would just kind of test it out and see how much I'm feeling the road. And there's certainly plenty of midsole foam that it is not going to be something that gives you a really good road feel. It's going to cushion you and keep you going through your stride without feeling the road too much. It's going to protect you and cushion you through your stride. Now, this EVA foam is both, good and bad in its own way. It's very light. Again, they've managed to keep the shoe to only 7.4 ounces for the almost 30 millimeters of foam that are in the heel here. But where I think it does start to go wrong is, this foam is going to start to break down over time very quickly. The lifespan of the Hoka Rincon line has always been something that's kind of in question. People have always talked about, how far can these really go? The outsole used to break down, which we'll talk about in just a second, but the midsole as well tends to see a lot of wear rather quickly. You can see here on the medial side of the shoe, I have a lot of creasing that's starting to form, and I've put 50 miles into this shoe before I made the video for my review. But you can see that it's really starting to show signs of creasing, starting to show signs that the foam is going to start to collapse. And really for me, as a heavier runner, I'm going to start to feel the impact of the foam breaking down before I see any signs that the outsole is giving way. They did improve the outsole in this shoe. I think they've made it a little bit more durable, but I would caution any runner who buys this shoe, especially if you're heavier, just look out for the midsole foam. Make sure you're really being conscious of what it feels like under your foot, because it may start to break down sooner than the outsole, and you don't want to be sinking in incorrectly into the foam if it's kind of broken down. You don't want to lose the protection and cushion of the foam if it's firmed up because it collapsed. And that's something that I think is going to happen in this shoe, and has happened in this shoe over the 3 iterations now. And it will probably continue to be something that you have to look out for. It's just a shoe that doesn't have a very long lifespan. You kind of get the trade-off of lifespan versus weight. And if we move on to the outsole, we'll see again there's an improvement over the Rincon 2 in that they've added a lot more rubber here on the toe and the forefoot. So this is going to protect the outsole significantly better than the Rincon 2. Again, for me, I don't think that the Rincon 2 really was an issue in that the foam showed any wear, because the foam over time was going to break down in that midsole before there was really an issue for me with the outsole where I actually couldn't use the shoe anymore. They've also placed more strategic rubber on the heel side where they anticipate you landing, again just to protect the EVA foam that's exposed on the bottom. And the rest of the EVA foam throughout the middle of your foot is generally exposed, and after 50 miles it's showing somewhere, but it's still in fairly good condition. So again, I think this outsole is an improvement, and if you were concerned in previous versions of the Rincon about the outsole and its wear, this one is going to kind of have solved those issues for you, and you should see a major improvement over the lifespan of this shoe. Some final little points about the shoe. The insole is lightly glued in. It is paper thin. I'm not going to remove it just because it does have some adhesive that's holding it in place, but it is, paper thin. That's really not any part of the protection for the comfort of the midsole. The tongue is not gusseted. It is completely free as far as tongues go, only connected all the way up here at the toe box. The width is pretty good. I would go true to size. It's not as narrow as some of the other Hoka shoes that I've worn personally, so I think you can really go true to size. But the nice thing is the Rincon 3 does come in a wide. Another small change they made was to the heel counter and the pull tab here. This used to be a large band of a pull tab, probably almost an inch thick, that went around the outside of the heel cup. Now it is just a small string. I think that's a nice improvement. However, I do kind of stand by what I said in my first impression, that this may eventually rip off if you really are pulling on it hard to stick your heel in the shoe. But nonetheless, I think it again will survive the lifespan of the midsole and outsole. So probably not going to be an issue. I haven't personally had any issues yet, but I also don't tend to tug on these too hard when I'm putting my foot in my shoe. If you're someone who does, just note that it is rather thin. So now that I've talked about some of the basics of the shoe, let's just kind of dive into what I think the shoe is good for, what I think some of the drawbacks of the shoe may be, and how I'm going to use this going forward if I don't put all the mileage in before the New York City Marathon, which I think I might before I end up retiring the shoe altogether because of how much mileage I put into it. So the first thing I'd say is, for me, this is a great daily trainer. It's a lightweight daily trainer. It's hard to find something that you can use on a daily basis that is so light. A lot of times, the lighter shoes are either the high-tech racing shoes like the Vaporfly, Endorphin Pro, something like that, Metaspeed Sky, and you don't want to put daily miles in something like that because you're going to kind of ruin the life of the shoe and go through it pretty quickly. So this is a daily trainer. I'd be very, comfortable grabbing this off the shelf if I'm going for, 4 to 8 miles, and I just want to kind of ignore my pace, ignore my heart rate, and just get out there and go for a good run. Now, because the shoe is so light, I also believe that this shoe is something that I would take for a tempo run. You can easily pick up the pace. I was actually rather surprised with how well this shoe did for me at faster paces. I felt very comfortable going down to, 10K, 5K pace. You certainly don't feel the boost that you do in some sort of, plated racing shoe, something again like the Metaspeed Sky, Nike Vaporfly, Alphafly, Endorphin Pro, you know, all of those shoes are going to give you a little bit more energy return. They're going to propel you along a little bit better. But absolutely, if you're somebody who just wants a nice comfortable shoe, you'll get out there and you'll definitely be able to do faster paces in this running shoe. Let's talk about long distance runs. The longest run that I did in this shoe was 18 miles. This shoe held up just fine. I was not uncomfortable after 18 miles at all. It had plenty of cushion to get me through the run. It's really well balanced, really well made to get you through a long run. And I probably wouldn't say this is my first choice, but again, it's certainly doable. And there's plenty of cushion in this midsole to do a longer run in. But again, you may kind of tick away at the lifespan of this shoe pretty quickly if you're going out for, you know, 15 to 20 mile runs all the time in this shoe. Next, can you race in it? I say absolutely. You know, somebody who maybe is working more on a budget, wants a shoe that can do a lot of things for them, this shoe, I would certainly say go for it. You know, maybe a budget half marathon racer, a budget 10K racer. You know, you certainly could use it for a 5K as well, but you can also probably find something that's even lighter and cheap with less stack height, but you may not need all the stack height in a 5K race. You know, maybe if you're, you know, a runner that's just getting into racing, just getting back into running, this would be a great one for a 5K as well, because you have plenty of cushion to get you through that race, and you may not want something that is so brutal on your feet with very little stack height. So, you know, this shoe can do it all. I've seen people race marathons in these. I don't think I would pick it for a marathon, but I think absolutely, again, it could get you through your marathon comfortably. It will not be as good as something like the Vaporfly, of course, but you're saving well over $100 with this over the Vaporfly. So it's a marathon racing shoe if you want it to be. You can really do just about everything, but I will summarize, I guess, for you what I think it's best for. For me, it's going to be a daily trainer to fartlek kind of run where maybe I want to pick up the pace here and there for different intervals of time. I have other shoes in my closet that I will probably pick for a true interval day over this shoe, but it can certainly get the job done. The price of the shoe is $115. I think it's worth getting the Rincon 3 over the previous versions, just because of little things like the pull tab, the sandwich mesh upper I think is an improvement over previous versions, and the outsole also is worth the improvements considering it really hasn't gotten much heavier. 7.4 ounces with this amount of rubber and protection on the bottom is worth the cost. Even if you do find a cheaper version of the Rincon 2, I would go with this Rincon 3. That's just where I sit in my opinion. So finally, just a quick recap of my pros and cons of this shoe. I'd say the first pro for this shoe is the versatility. You truly can do just about anything in this shoe. So that is a big plus in my mind. This is a great shoe, again, for anybody just starting out with running, somebody who only has a budget for a few shoes. So great shoe for the versatility. The second thing I would say is the price, as I kind of alluded to, $115. I do still think it's worth it. I think it's a good price for everything that this shoe can accomplish for you. The comfort of the midsole, I think, is a big plus. It is a very comfortable stack height, and the comfort to weight ratio is very good. So the weight is the other thing that I think is the big plus at only 7.4 ounces. And the final positive, the improvements to the outsole and the upper, I think make it worth it over other versions of the Rincon. So that wraps up my positives for this shoe. Now on to the negatives. Durability obviously has always been an issue. It kind of balances that value, you know, price versus how long it's going to last. It always has for the Rincon lineup, but I, just think that the durability is always going to be a con for this shoe. It's a negative point to this shoe, unfortunately. The other thing I would say is while the upper is very comfortable, it did prove to me, in my case, to not be as breathable as I may have needed it to be for a longer run. So maybe they can improve that in the future, but I think that's one of the other few things that just didn't work out as well for me as I would have liked it to. So what is my overall rating for this shoe? I would say my rating is 4.5 stars out of 5. Anything 4 stars and above, I would say, is something I definitely recommend buying. The half-star reduction, in my opinion, is simply because of the durability of the shoe. It's amazing to me how much the shoe can get done for you. You know, anybody who's just getting back into running, anybody who has the budget for maybe 1 or 2 shoes, this is certainly something that would be an option for you, and it can do so much. I really love it, and I will continue to use it, you know, as I go forward in my training for the next marathon.